Have you ever noticed how easy it is to lose yourself while being entirely focused on yourself? In a world obsessed with identity, expression, and personal branding, we are constantly encouraged to define who we are, loudly, visibly, and often. But what if the more we try to become someone, the further we drift from the one we truly are? There is a silence beneath all this noise, a quiet longing that cannot be satisfied by likes, followers, or applause. It's the ache of the forgotten self, the part of you that existed before the world told you who you should be. You scroll, you post, you curate, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you become the reflection of the mirror you've built around you. The chamber of echoes grows louder. It repeats your name, your opinions, your image, until eventually you can no longer hear anything else, not even your soul. What Jung understood, long before the age of social media, was that the persona, the mask we wear to navigate society, is necessary. But when we believe we are only the mask, we imprison the rest of our being in silence. Modern life invites us to perfect that mask. We edit our photos, filter our emotions, and script our interactions. We become experts at appearing whole, while secretly splintering inside. And so begins the great paradox of our time. The more we perform authenticity, the less authentic we feel. We speak our truths in hashtags, yet drown in emotional solitude. We are heard by many, but rarely truly seen. In this echo chamber of self, we are surrounded by our own projections. We attract people who validate the image we maintain, not the essence we've forgotten. Every click, every comment, every affirmation strengthens the false identity, while the deeper self waits, abandoned. The danger is not just in losing ourselves, it's in never realizing we were lost. But there is another way, quieter, older, and far more courageous. It begins when we pause, when we dare to ask, "Who am I?" when no one is watching? When we stop feeding the machine of identity long enough to feel the stillness beneath the noise. That stillness is not empty, it is the door. A door to memories we buried, feelings we denied, desires we dismissed as irrational. It's the threshold to the unconscious, the terrain where the real self sleeps not dead but dreaming. And to awaken it is to begin the journey back to wholeness, not through more definitions, but through dissolution. Not by becoming someone, but by unbecoming all that was never truly you. This chapter is not about judgment. It's not a condemnation of the digital world or the need to belong. It's an invitation to remember the one within who doesn't need to be seen to exist. The one who waits patiently behind your most polished mask. In that remembering, something shifts. The noise begins to quiet. The echoes lose their grip. And the first whisper of the soul begins to rise. Unfamiliar, tender, and real. This is not the end. It's the fracture in the mirror. The moment the performance pauses, and the truth, long exiled, dares to speak. We all wear masks. Some are subtle, a smile that hides fatigue, a nod that conceals disagreement. Others are crafted with care, designed to protect, to belong, to succeed. Jung called this mask the persona, not an enemy but a necessary tool. It helps us function in society, play roles, maintain order. But what happens when the mask stops being a tool and becomes the self? We begin to forget. Not suddenly, not dramatically. Forgetting the true self is a slow erosion. Like a shoreline pulled back grain by grain, until one day you stand in front of your own reflection and realize you no longer recognize the eyes staring back at you. The persona was never meant to be a home. It was a bridge, a way to meet the world without exposing the vulnerable, shifting truths inside us. But when the bridge becomes a wall, the soul begins to suffocate. You might feel it as an unexplained exhaustion, an ache you can't name, a growing sense that no matter how much you do, say, or accomplish, something is missing, because something is. When we become too identified with the image we present, we disconnect from the mystery of who we are. The persona thrives on certainty, labels, titles, roles, but the soul is vast, contradictory, and wild. It does not fit into hashtags or job descriptions. The modern world rewards personas. It hands out applause for performance. But the self, the true self, has no need for an audience. And so attention grows. Inside, the deeper self longs to be felt, not showcased, not explained, just known, silently, intimately. But the persona resists. It fears rejection, exposure, irrelevance. So we double down, smile brighter, speak louder, achieve more. And in doing so, the gap widens. This is the quiet crisis of our age. Millions of people performing fragments of themselves, terrified of being forgotten, while never truly being known. But no mask, no matter how beautiful, can substitute for the feeling of being whole. When the persona hardens, we lose access to the inner landscape. Our dreams feel distant. Our emotions become flatter, rehearsed. And even in joy, there's a lingering sense that something isn't quite real. Wholeness is not the enemy of adaptation. We can be both social and soulful, but not if we confuse the two. To live only as the persona is to starve the self. It is to navigate life with only half our compass, wondering why we feel lost. It is to collect compliments, yet feel unseen. To succeed externally, yet crumble internally. Jung didn't ask us to destroy the mask. He asked us to see it for what it is, a layer, not a definition, a surface, not the depth. And in that seeing, freedom begins. You are allowed to have many selves. You are allowed to shift, evolve, contradict, but you are not required to disappear inside a role. The soul does not care how others see you. It only longs for one thing, that you see yourself, without the distortion of performance, without the weight of perfection, without the fear of not being enough. There is power in taking off the mask, even briefly, in solitude, in silence, in moments when no one is watching. That's when the forgotten self begins to stir. That's when you remember that you are more than your name, your job, your image. You are not your smile. You are not your profile. You are not your carefully crafted persona. You are the one behind all of it, watching, waiting, whispering, "Come back to me." There comes a moment, often unnoticed, when the performance becomes too perfect, when the smile never cracks, the routine never stumbles, and the version of yourself you present is so polished that even pain has no place to land. And yet beneath that gleaming surface, a quiet emptiness begins to spread. Not the emptiness of failure, but the emptiness of success without soul. You may know this feeling, waking up in a life that looks complete on the outside, but feels barren within. Relationships, achievements, appearances, and all seemingly in order, yet the echo of something missing lingers. You touch the surface of joy, but it doesn't sink in. You laugh, but the laughter feels rehearsed. Something essential has gone silent. This is the paradox of authenticity in the modern world. We are taught to be ourselves, but only if that self fits the mold. Authenticity has become a performance too, curated, filtered, and fed back to us through screens. We're told to share our truths, but only the ones that are palatable, marketable, likable. The result? A generation of souls starving beneath the weight of their own perfection. The more we try to embody a flawless image, the more disconnected we become from the raw, imperfect, pulsing life within us. And that disconnection breeds a unique kind of suffering, not dramatic, but persistent. A quiet ache. A subtle sense that we are living beside ourselves. Jung saw this coming. He spoke of the danger of identifying too strongly with the persona, warning that we risked losing the depth of the unconscious, the part of us where meaning, instinct, and true vitality live. When we suppress that dimension in favor of appearance, we create a split. One part of us is seen, admired, applauded. The other part, the messy, real, unfiltered part, is exiled. And yet, that exiled part is the source of our aliveness. To live without it is to drift through life as a ghost in your own story, present but not fully alive. The unconscious doesn't vanish when ignored. It waits. It whispers in dreams, in sudden waves of sadness, in the restlessness that keeps you up at night. It speaks through the body, through fatigue, through the haunting sense that no matter what you achieve, you are not yet home. Because you're not. Home is not a place. It's a state of alignment, a return to the full spectrum of who you are, the light and the shadow, the polished and the raw, the known and the unknown. When you exile parts of yourself to maintain an image, you don't become more lovable. You become less whole, There is no peace in perfection, only pressure. And the soul was not made to live under pressure. It was made to feel, to weep, to wonder, to break and heal and break again, to walk through the fire of contradiction and come out changed. Not cleaner, not shinier, but truer. True authenticity isn't crafted, it's remembered. It arises when you stop pretending, when you stop trying to be impressive and start being real, when you admit to yourself, if only in a whisper, that you're tired of performing, that you miss yourself, that you're ready to come home. And in that moment, the soul stirs, not because you did something extraordinary, but because you stopped trying to be extraordinary. The silence inside you is not empty. It's full of the self you've forgotten, and that self is not interested in applause. It only wants to be felt. So let the mask slip. Let the smile soften. Let the edges show. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole. Imagine trying to catch the wind with your hands. You reach, grasp, close your fists, but all you hold is air. That's what it feels like to chase identity in a world obsessed with control. The more you try to define yourself, the less you truly know who you are. And what you end up holding is not self, but shadow. There is a forest within you, dense, dark, forgotten. You don't walk there often, maybe never. It's the place where old memories live, where the parts of you you've rejected have taken shelter. Not evil parts, just unwanted. The anger you weren't allowed to express, the grief you were told to hide, the hunger for meaning that makes you question everything. This is the unconscious, not a pit of chaos, but a well of truth. But you can't hear it from the surface, not while clinging to the mirror of who you think you should be. You have to go in, not with force, but with silence, with surrender. The way one approaches a sacred ruin, slowly, with respect. Jung knew that healing doesn't happen through control. It happens through relationship, with the forgotten, the feared, the hidden, and the unconscious, though often silent, is not your enemy. It is your neglected self, waiting to be seen. But to hear it, you must break the loop of repetition, of projection, of self-image bouncing off digital walls, that echo chamber you've been living in. It's not just around you, it's inside you. A loop of old patterns, old stories, old wounds, disguised as your personality. You are not your patterns. You are not your past. You are the one who can see them. And seeing is where the transformation begins. To look inward is not comfortable. It is to sit in a room where every wall is a mirror. To face not just what was done to you, but what you've done to yourself. Out of fear, out of survival, out of forgetting. But there's grace in that room too. Because when you stop running, the truth stops chasing. It sits beside you. It shows you who you were and who you still are beneath the dust. You begin to hear the whispers, a dream that repeats, asking to be understood, a feeling that never leaves, asking to be honored, a memory that returns, not to haunt, but to be integrated. This is the beginning of dialogue with the unconscious, not to dominate it, but to listen, to allow it to speak its strange language, symbols, metaphors, sensations. It won't give you answers. It will give you presence. And in that presence you remember what it means to be alive. Not performed aliveness, not curated confidence, but raw, rooted, undistorted being. The forest is not the enemy, it is the womb of the soul. And in it, you are no longer the image, you are the source. You are the one who can hold the sorrow without drowning, the one who can sit with uncertainty and not flinch, the one who can hear the voice within and believe it, even when no one else does. This is not the kind of knowing you can explain. It doesn't fit into sentences or posts. It lives in your blood, in your bones, in the way you start to carry yourself differently. Not louder, but deeper. When you return from the forest, and you will, you come back changed. Not because you found a new label, but because you shed the need for one. The world may not notice, but your soul will, and that is enough. There is a quiet revolution that begins the moment you stop asking, "Who should I be?" and start asking, "Who am I really?" Not in theory, not in roles, but in essence. This is the turning point, The breath before the leap. The moment when the mask becomes too heavy, the echo too loud, and the soul too urgent to keep ignoring. It's not a dramatic awakening. It's subtle, like the sound of leaves rustling before a storm. But once you feel it, you can never go back. Jung called this path individuation. Not perfection, not transcendence, but wholeness. The slow, sometimes painful, sometimes luminous journey of becoming who you are underneath everything you were taught to be. It is not about becoming better. It is about becoming real. To walk this path, you do not need to know the destination. You need only the courage to begin. And it starts by noticing what feels hollow, what feels forced, what feels like a performance you no longer want to sustain. When you begin to let go of those layers, something ancient stirs. You feel it in the stillness, that you are more than you appear to be, that the soul does not speak in achievements or aesthetics, but in symbols, sensations, and truth. And the truth is, you are not broken. You are burdened with masks, with noise, with the weight of an identity too small for your soul. You don't need to become someone else. You need to remember the one you left behind, the child who felt deeply, the dreamer who questioned everything, the part of you that still knows how to wonder, how to feel awe, how to sit in silence and feel home. This remembering isn't about nostalgia. It's about integration, gathering the lost parts, the rejected selves, the abandoned emotions, and welcoming them back one by one. Not to fix them, but to love them, to say, you belong here too. The ego will resist. It wants control, clarity, definition. It fears the wildness of the unknown self. But the soul knows, wholeness is not a clean line, but a living circle, messy, vibrant, contradictory, complete. You will feel lost at times. That's how you know you've left the echo chamber. That's how you know you're no longer repeating the script. You're writing a new one, not for the world, but for yourself. There will be grief. For all the years spent being someone else, there will be beauty in discovering you never had to be, and there will be freedom. Not because life becomes easy, but because it becomes yours. You may find yourself walking slower, speaking less, feeling more. You may cry for no reason or laugh in moments of silence. These are not signs of falling apart. These are signs of coming alive. The world may not understand this journey. That's okay. The individuation path is not loud, it's not glamorous. It won't make headlines, but it will make you whole. And in that wholeness, something sacred emerges, a presence that cannot be manufactured, a peace that cannot be bought, a strength that does not shout. It is the strength of someone who knows who they are, not because they've decided it, but because they've discovered it. And that discovery is not the end, it is the beginning of everything. Have you ever wondered how much of your life has been shaped by who you thought you had to be? How many years were spent performing strength while silently carrying sorrow? And what might happen if you stopped? What if you gave yourself permission, even just for a moment, to lay down the mask, to step out of the echo and to listen? Not to the world, not to the noise, but to the quiet voice that has been with you all along. The one that whispers, you are not your persona. You are not your projections. You are not the story others wrote for you. You are the watcher behind the story, the soul behind the mirror, the truth beneath the surface. And the moment you stop chasing identity and begin reclaiming the whole of who you are, shadow and light, chaos and calm, something shifts. The echo fades, the self returns, and you remember what it means to be home inside yourself. If something in this video touched your soul, if you felt seen or heard or remembered something long buried, consider supporting this channel through a super thanks. It helps us continue creating this kind of deep, soulful content for people like you. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and don't leave just yet. Another video is appearing on your screen now. It's waiting to walk with you a little further. And before you go, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We read every message with heart.